me on a journey, a time travel journey. It's a Monday morning. It's the 3rd of August, 2009, and I'm going back to work for the first time after a 2-week holiday. Yay! I was going in to do a 3-day straight training course that I was leading. Day went brilliantly, went home, found my husband dead. Yeah, you heard me right. I found my husband dead. That morning, I had happily gone off to work, having no clue that less than 6-7 hours later, I would be a widow. Why am I telling you this? The day he died, he had no more opportunity to share his light to the world. If you're a speaker looking at this and you know you've got that message in you that needs to come out, the reality of it is you don't know how long you've got to share your message. Now, I'm not trying to be morbid here, but none of us do know how long we've got. Life can change in a heartbeat, or lack of. So I'm being a bit pushy today, but I'm getting you to think. Getting your message out there is important. Don't let your song, your message die in your heart without getting it out there. What does this mean in reality? Having every opportunity to speak. It's grabbing the mic. If somebody says, "Oh, who wants to speak?" You put your hand up and go, "Yes, please. I'll do it." The more you speak, the more confident you get, the more you can hone in on your message. And you can see what works and what doesn't with an audience. Now, yes, you will require to do a little bit of digging and working on the actual speech itself. However, you are not going to wait until all your ducks are in order. Because while you do that, the people who need to hear your message are desperately waiting. You see, the thing is that you've been somewhere. Pretty much everybody I work with has been somewhere that did not feel good. And they've worked out a way of getting through that, learning lessons. And that's the wisdom they want to share with the people who are still back where they were. Again, an illustration from my perspective. Do you remember when we were allowed out to play for the first time after COVID? That was fun, wasn't it? We'd been in lockdown all this time, and then suddenly the doors were open and we could get out. Well, I was asked to speak at a networking meeting entitled Your Best Year Ever. Oh, that was fun. And what did I talk about? The day that Jeff died. When I came home to find him dead, I actually said out loud, "This really is the first day of the rest of my life." Because in that moment, my life changed entirely in ways I could not have anticipated. He had been mentally unwell for 15 of the 20 years we were married. And not only was I devastated, suddenly a widow at 43, I was also quite relieved, because as he was getting progressively mentally further down, and no, he didn't commit suicide, he had been, the phrase I used in the networking meeting was sucking the life out of me. So I had the sadness, the grief, the relief, and then the guilt. Because those last two things I couldn't talk about. I mean, You don't air your dirty linen in public. You don't talk ill of the dead. So the societal conditioning that squashed those last two feelings of relief and guilt, they were unable to be expressed. That was what I was talking about at this networking meeting. The fact that how can you have such conflicting feelings and also then move through them and move on with life? After the conversation had finished, after I'd done my talk and we'd had drinks and whatever, this lady came up to me afterwards and thanked me for my vulnerability, because it had given her the courage to walk away from a toxic relationship. Okay, how did what I said about my husband dying mean that you had the courage to walk away from your toxic relationship? Obviously, I didn't actually say that, but that was the thought process going on in my mind. And I put on the poker face and didn't do the, yeah, what? But I asked her, what specifically spoke to you? Do you know what it was? That phrase, sucking the life out of me. Okay, that one phrase meant that she could walk away. From her perspective, gave her the courage and the impetus to take action. I saw her earlier on this year. So that's what, 3 years later? 2 years later. What a difference. So much brighter, lighter in her demeanor, because she had made that decision and she had actioned it. She'd taken that call to action, even though it wasn't a call to action at that point. From her perspective, it was. She'd actioned it, job done, lightened the load. Her life changed. Because in that moment, I connected with her heart and mind, and her life was changed. She made that decision to change her life. So I go back to my original question. Are you sitting on a message that can change lives? Because if you are, how long are your audience going to have to wait for that impetus, that motivation, that courage to show up? Because you have taken the microphone and shared your message. Will it be perfect? No, not to start with. In fact, it never will. My point is, though, get out there. If you're feeling nervous about it, you want some support, we've got a webinar coming up. The information will be in the show notes, or you can get hold of me. Again, information in the show notes. Let's talk. Your message needs to be out there. The mess you went through to get your message was not only for you, it was for other people as well. Get your message out there. Don't let your message die with you. Bye from me.